Hi, welcome to the Roberta Randolph Show. I am Roberta Randolph, and I am your interviewer and your host. This afternoon, we will be talking about understanding the forces that shape destiny. With me in the studio is Pastor Robert Akron. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so I want us to just dive straight into the topic and start talking about the understanding the forces that shape destiny. But before we do that, why don't you please give a little brief introduction of yourself?
Well, my name is Robert Akron. I am based in Maryland, Frederick, Maryland, and Minnesota also happens to be my second home. So from time to time I come here, and I'm here today, and I want us to understand the times we're living in and what the Bible has to say, so we'll be better prepared to position ourselves to make the necessary impact.
Thank you very much. So let's start by asking, what was the reason why you chose the topic? Why are we here to understand the forces that shape destiny?
Okay, it's like we are living in very confusing times, and for us to really make sense of everything, so we'll make intelligent choices and take strategic steps to accomplish our ends, our goals, and to live out our purposes for the reasons we are here. We need to understand this life. And one way to understand it is to understand how God has spoken about it. Get a sense of history to realize that there are certain forces, they may look invisible, but they are always there. And so we'll look at examples from the Bible and then look at our contemporary life and realize that those forces that shape destinies then are still shaping destinies now. So the question becomes, how do we learn the lessons of the past to guide us as to the steps to take, either to take advantages of the advantages or to avoid the pitfalls that Asian societies experienced by not really being conscious of history.
Thank you very much. But I understand here very clear that we're going to take a message from the Bible. Mm-hmm. Why did you choose to use the Bible as the basis?
Because, well, you see, the human being is a three-dimensional being. Okay. We are spirit, we have a soul that takes care of the mind, and we have a body. We are mostly conscious of the soul side because that's what we use to relate to the world. But we also have to understand we have a spirit. And for us to live the total life, we need to understand all the aspects of our lives. And since God has spoken and he still speaks, we have to understand how he has spoken in the past. So we will be in a better position, again, to understand the present. History will teach you that. And anybody who ignores the lessons of history is bound to pay the price societies in the past paid for ignoring the lessons of history.
Thank you. So, and today, where are we going to take this history and which part of the Bible?
I mean, as an African American, actually originally from Africa, being here, the part of the Bible that speaks to my experience is the book of Daniel, chapter 1. One can read the whole of chapter 1 and then take nuggets out of it and then try to reason through them and look at what is happening in our contemporary world. The parallels are just amazing. And because of that, they couldn't be just coincidences. It appears that those forces are very deterministic. So we need to learn and be able to make the necessary adjustments, take the necessary decisions for maximum impact.
Let's walk us through that then. Daniel 1.
Okay, you read the book of Daniel, and the Bible makes it clear that verse 1, and you read from the King James Version, it straight away talks about two kings. The Nebuchadnezzar, who was then the king of Babylon, he came all the way over 1,000 miles and besieged Jerusalem, then ruled by a king called Jehoiakim. And the Bible uses the word besieged, which means the type of warfare was a siege warfare. And in a siege, you have one of the warring parties actually ringing the other. No blows are thrown.
I see.
No blows. The ringing party actually leaves the ringed party, and what happens is they prevent resources from moving out or coming in. So what you have will all be that you have, and you eat to the point where your resources are depleted, and that's when surrender comes in. And during the time when you have all your resources together but no replenishment is coming, life is like normal. But you know that life is not normal because there is no replenishment. Before you realize, life takes a downward turn. And so the question becomes, how does that apply to our contemporary experience? How are these forces shaping? How is a group or a society, a community contained so that nothing positive is really happening? And all you see is negativity. What is really happening? Do the players realize what is happening? Or do we even come to the point that we may seem to be ourselves, but there are forces that are shaping our choices, our actions, and what have you? The more conscious you are aware of those forces, the more likely that you will make better. You will take better steps and make better decisions.
So take us through some of those forces that we can derive from the scripture and now apply to our contemporary world.
Okay. This is the interesting thing. The Bible says that it was God who gave Jehoiakim into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. Gave. Mm-hmm. Nebuchadnezzar came thinking he had what it took, logistics-wise, military strength-wise, all those things. And he thought, okay, I'm waging this warfare. I'm literally getting this person to eat his resources to the point where he would have to surrender. But the Bible says, Nebuchadnezzar, you didn't win. Jehoiakim, you didn't lose. I made the choice. The outcome was determined by me. So all of a sudden, you have human beings playing out a scenario humans actually engaging. But all of a sudden, we have a force that is almost invisible, determining the outcome. I would like to know that force, because that force is determining my destiny. I would like to know what that force is.
So my understanding here, this is getting very interesting. Here are the variables, here are the players, but somebody is behind saying that even though you realize that you are doing this, you are not actually the one doing it. I'm behind the whole thing, shaping things.
Yes.
So let's learn this.
So the question becomes, what is
these forces?
The motive? What is the goal? What is the purpose of this force who says, I gave your adversary into your hands? It's not because of the superiority of your weapons. It's not because of the superiority of your military strategy. I made you win. So in actual fact, I won. You didn't win, and you, the loser, you didn't lose.
I was playing the whole game.
So what is really happening? You getting me? So that's one thing we need to realize about this life. There are invisible forces. And we need to know, whether we like it or not, they shape our destinies. I would like to know how they play out. How did God give Jehoiakim into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar? How did that play out? So at this point, is somebody really determining my life? Do I have a choice in this matter? You getting me? If I'm able to come to that point that, yes, there are invisible forces, and I get to understand how they actually operate, I'll be in a better position to know what to do at any point in time. My life choices will be better informed than if I'm not aware of all these forces. The interesting thing, all of a sudden, Nebuchadnezzar, the Bible tells us that he calls his servant and tells him, look for some of the children of Israel, the king's seed and the princes, put them together. But these are the attributes those children must come with. They must be aesthetically appealing. That means they must have beauty on their side. They must be skillful in wisdom. They must be cunning in knowledge. They must understand science, and they must have the ability to stand in the corridors of power.
So all of a sudden, these attributes are skillful in wisdom, cunning in knowledge, understanding in science.
Yes.
So not just knowing science, but also having
You have
understanding.
understanding.
And then having ability to stand in front of leadership.
Yeah.
And then what?
That's what it is. Four things.
These are the criteria.
Yes. And Roberta, there is an interesting thing in life. It is known there are three things that can take somebody from the trash bin to the palace. Three things.
Okay.
One of them is beauty. A beautiful girl can be married. A beautiful girl from a very poor family can meet a prince or a king and be taken from that poor neighborhood to a palace.
Absolutely. And we have examples in the Bible and in the secular world.
And even right now, take Angela Merkel. What's her name? Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle marrying the prince.
The prince. All of a sudden, she's royalty. Prince Harry.
Yeah.
Royalty. Her life has been transformed.
Beauty.
Whatever. You getting me?
Absolutely.
So, beauty without anything can take you from the back of the line to the front of the line. It's one thing. Beauty can shape your destiny. Just having physical attributes can shape your destiny. Right?
Yeah.
Then we have the second thing, money. Money can buy somebody with money can buy his or her way out.
Anyway.
9 out of 10.
Give some examples.
I mean, somebody with money can win an election not because of talent, but because he has the means to buy all the arts out.
Absolutely.
You getting me?
So beauty, money.
Money can influence a lot of things.
Absolutely.
You getting me? Then you have the third, one's gifts.
Gift.
It can come in the form of a talent. It can come, whether talent, brain power, athletic ability, or what have you. That can take you from the back of the line to the front of the line. Take Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan was born to a poor father. I mean, they were not rich by any standard. But today, Michael Jordan is a billionaire. Mm-hmm. Not because of intellectual power, not because of beauty, but because of his gift, taking advantage of his talent. So these are the three things we know can transform your life. Look at the requirements. the king asks for. So it's like now we are talking. Look at our contemporary world. STEM. We are asking students and even adults to invest in STEM education, science, technology,
Right.
engineering, mathematics. All these actually are anchored by science. And what is science? Science simply means understanding the operations of nature. It's as simple as that. Nebuchadnezzar asked, mind you, these were conquered people. These people had been conquered and had been taken from their native land, Jerusalem, Judah, to Babylon. You would think they were slaves. And indeed they were. They had been captured. All of a sudden, because of certain abilities, certain attributes they had, they were about to be
Elevated. Is that the word I use?
yes, one promoted.
Right.
Very interesting.
Because they fall within the criteria the king is looking for. How do we bring this to our today's life?
Listen. Everywhere you turn, educators are asking, listen, STEM is the way to go. Science, understanding science is a requirement, an indispensable tool to really thrive in our contemporary economy. The ability to use technology, the ability to engineer things, understand mathematics. Those are the things that are driving the world as we know it. Check it out. Over 3,000 years ago, a king asked for people with this attribute. Has history changed? Has the human being changed? Has the world changed? Those forces were there, and they are still present. So if we understand history, we'll begin to realize, yes, we are players in this experience called life. However, there are other stakeholders. Who are those stakeholders? And what are their stakes in our contemporary experience? I know what I can do, but there are other forces that also have a stake. I need to understand them. I need to understand those forces in order for me to really make the sort of impact.
This is really getting interesting because as you talk, my mind is running all over the place to looking at things pertaining to our world, because this is not just a particular area, it's just across the board, across the globe. Let's look at what is going on with our world today.
Okay.
Are these forces still shaping our political, geopolitical world?
Of course.
And how?
Listen.
When we look...
We listen, I mean, is it coincidence that America elected a new president?
Okay.
Britain also voted to come out of the European Union.
Right around the same time.
Right around the same time. What is really happening? These are major world players. Britain and America. Major. If not the two major.
Absolutely.
Almost experience the same thing. Is it coincidence? Or is it very deterministic in nature? If coincidence, I still want to understand the forces
behind it.
But if those things have all the markings of determinism, I want to understand those forces that determined the sort of world. You getting me?
Absolutely.
Because I want to understand in order for me to make the sort of choices that will position me for better impact.
And really coming to understand the world you live in and why trends are going the way it's going.
I mean, as an African, as a black person, I want to understand this world, because I'm about to say certain things. The Bible says the Daniel, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, their names were changed. In fact, to the extent of the four, the only one whose name we actually know to be Hebrew was Daniel. Azariah, Mishael, and the other, they are actually known today by their Babylonian names: Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. What is happening? Take the African. Where in the Bible is it stipulated that you need to have a European name? But down to the letter, my name is Robert. It's not an African name. So we must understand the forces again. Was it? What was happening? And I make this point. Listen, these children were taken from their native land. Today, I'm here. Maybe nobody forced me. But whether I like it or not, something must have determined my deciding to come here. So, you see...
So you made a choice to get to the United States.
But in actual fact, you may say, I thought I made a conscious choice. But could forces also be there
behind
that
shaping your destiny?
You get me? So now all of a sudden, as an intelligent, maybe middle-aged man, I want to step back and take stock of my life. Have I really been in charge all this while? What I mean by...
Would you say you have been really in charge?
Now, all of a sudden, maybe I thought that all the choices, maybe I made those choices. But let me use a word, was I railroaded into those choices simply because there were forces out there I didn't understand?
Okay,
so if I had understood those forces, could I have made, or would I have made other choices? Those are the things I want to understand now.
I'm going to go back a little bit on that. It's interesting. So now here you are, nobody forced you. You got on the flight, you get to the United States. Did you have in mind exactly what you wanted to be? Because I know you've been so many things at the same time, and now you're stepping back and asking yourself, what was shaping all of these?
Yeah. And I wish everybody will have the chance to really do some sort of introspection. Ask yourself, who am I? And how my personality has come out this way. How did it? What forces
were behind it?
Yeah. I take scripture seriously, and I'm a student of history. Okay. My training was in history. My undergraduate degree and in history. And so all of a sudden, history is becoming
important,
a very compelling subject. You get me?
Right.
So now I want to look at what is history saying. How has history shaped the past?
Okay, with that said, hang on that subject there. We talked about how these forces are changing our geo-world and our geopolitical world. All of a sudden, America is at the edge of trying to change, get into another election, federal election. Suddenly, women are contesting. Everybody else, people of color, everybody is running into this election. The Brexits are saying, no, we don't want this anymore. Can we talk a little bit about this and understand what is happening around the world?
Isn't it amazing?
And how is that impacting my life?
Okay. I mean, Babylon was a superpower of the ancient world. Egypt was a superpower of the ancient world. You getting me? Judah wasn't.
Okay.
So we will get a picture why Nebuchadnezzar was able to harness that sort of military manpower to come hundreds of miles away to come and besiege Judah, and then take its natural resources and its human capital to go and improve.
It sounds like Russia interfering with the American election.
I really don't know. All I'm saying is, as a person of color,
right,
this is interesting to me because I'm here. Let's put it this way. I went to school in Ghana. I went to the university in Ghana free. I didn't pay a dime. But my productive years, I'm giving it to America. The country that spent its resources to educate me is not benefiting from its investment. I'm giving my productive years to America. So the question becomes, what has made America so attractive? And what has made the country that really paid the way for me so unattractive?
Let's talk about that, because that really, that catch my attention. What is it that has cost you? What is it what is the driving force behind? So the question, I'm getting all excited. I have to put it together. What makes America so attractive to the point that you can neglect what the country that raised you to come here? And what makes that country so unattractive that you left to cleave to this one?
Roberta, I'm a pastor. But I'm also a network engineer. And I have legal training. So I'm looking at all this together. And I'm asking some interesting questions. The reason I brought in this question of a pastor, of course, the Bible speaks to me a lot. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
There is the story in the Bible of John the Baptist. Right? The Bible said in the book of Matthew that John was the one prophesied to precede the coming of Jesus. But the Bible uses a term, this is the voice crying in the wilderness. And when John came, he did his work in the wilderness. The word wilderness is synonymous with desert. The word desert. Human beings don't live in deserts.
Right.
They live in cities, towns, what have you. And John was preaching in the desert. Who was there to listen to him?
Exactly.
But the Bible said he cried, which means he did it with passion. All of a sudden, the Bible said, people in Jerusalem,
journeyed,
in Jordan, and all the cities and towns around, moved to the wilderness to go and hear John. So all of a sudden, what is happening here? The cities lost population to the desert. What has made the desert so attractive all of a sudden?
The people
left the cities to go to John in the wilderness. John didn't preach in the cities. He preached in the wilderness, the desert.
Right.
People actually now left the cities to go to the desert.
What is the first
what was it about John? What did he do that nobody is telling us? for the city to become so unattractive and the desert so attractive. What that tells me is that, listen, I have the ability to turn an uninviting place into a very inviting place. So what abilities do I have to pull this off? Yeah, are you getting? So if what is it about America to become so attractive
To
that
everybody in the world.
so in this case, all of a sudden, America, to use a very technical word,
right.
is what we call a centripetal force. Get
Centripetal.
it? Centripetal force. All of a sudden, in my country, Africa losing population is like a centrifugal force.
Centrifugal,
Centripetal is a force that attracts people or attracts things from the periphery to a center. America is that sort of force. Centrifugal is the force that dispels people and sends them helter-skelter to different places.
right.
So what is it? How is the centrifugal force causing Africa to lose its population? And how is America playing the role of a centripetal force to attract people from the periphery here? I want to understand.
Absolutely. This is a
Very
huge thing.
interesting. I want to understand. And for me, now all of a sudden, what is it about America that is going to cause America to all of a sudden move from being a centripetal force to a centrifugal force?
So you're saying America is on a trend of shifting.
Whether that's, so all of it, I said, we need to understand history
Right.
to really learn certain lessons from history.
Right.
So we will make better choices.
If
The
America-
reason
if-
America has become attractive, that's the equivalent of a centripetal force working like a centripetal force.
Right. Would you say that at this moment in the world we live in right now in America, America is still maintaining a centripetal force?
Yes, it
in
is.
which people are
People are coming, it's attracting. But are we doing certain things?
to maintain.
Are we conscious of these forces that can shape destinies? What are we doing that may turn America into a centrifugal force, dispel people, and that may not be too good for America?
Let's talk about that. Does that have a play in politics?
It could come because, as I said, I used the Daniel. The Bible said God gave. How he did that, the Bible doesn't explain. It gives us certain things, so we get a picture of what really, or what was the attraction of Nebuchadnezzar for God to even decide to put Jehoiakim into his hands with some of the treasures of the temple. This is heavy language.
It is.
What was it about him? And what is it about America to make this place so attractive?
I want to back up a little bit. Thank you. This is some heavy stuff. I want to back up a little bit and talk about what is it that caused the European Union to become a centripetal, and now is becoming a centrifugal.
These are some of, again, I don't want to go
Into too much.
But all I'm saying is we have to open our eyes and shine the light on history. Try to understand. We should live life consciously. Try to understand a lot of things. All of a sudden today, China. Some few years ago, it was Japan, for heaven's sake, for Asia. Now it is China. I want to understand what is really happening. How are these forces, again, shaping things? Do I want to remain a pawn? You understand?
Right.
To use a walnut method. Do I want to remain a pawn Or do I want to be a beat player? And I want to understand. And in understanding, I will now be conscious of the footprints and the handprints of these forces. And I'll be able to make better choices. Sometimes the choice I will gravitate to may look so attractive, but if I understand the forces of history, these forces that shape destinies, they may be saying something different.
What is the force that made Africa so unattractive to you, but then America became so attractive to you, that draws you here?
It's interesting. You see, for me, I came here, the draw for me was education.
Okay. But you were educated already.
I wanted more education. You getting me? So I came here. And then the question then, why couldn't my country
Provide you.
It's a whole thing. Maybe I wanted to really have, wanted to be a citizen of the world, not necessarily my country. That may be, but all I'm saying is, I may represent millions of people out there. My story is common. You get it? Maybe almost all the immigrants here share a bit of my story.
Absolutely.
You get me? Mm-hmm. But again, I want that awareness. Awareness for immigrants, awareness for people to come in here, for us to understand what is really happening in our world. What is driving me out, or what is driving people from different places to come to America. So America also will realize, maybe don't lose that thing that makes you such an attraction. If you don't realize that this is what is attractive about you, and you begin to act in ways that may take that attraction away, if you don't understand what has happened in the past, then America may well be on the road to experiencing what those ancient civilizations experienced by not paying careful attention to the forces of history. That's all I'm saying. And this is what we need to understand. This is what the church is, that we are not only to provide spiritual, call it vitamins, but the Bible actually is also a mind training tool. It's not only a spiritual book, it's a mind training tool. And those stories in the Bible or narratives were chosen carefully to tell us about this life. And I want to be a good student of what is in the Bible so I can understand.
So now I want us to look at some international, our international world and what's happening around us. I'm realizing that I did a little research and I realized that Europe is losing population all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. Is there a force behind this? Can we say that there's a force behind it?
Of course.
And if there's a force, what could be the forces? Is it some economic issues?
You see, I don't want to say a specific thing.
Right.
But I want to do a holistic job.
Okay.
I want to look at things holistically. Economics may be just one. You getting me? Mm-hmm. Economics may be just one, maybe the dominant one, but that doesn't certainly make it the only one. There are other things. And the more informed I am about those things, those forces, the better my decisions will be. And therefore, the more positive my impact will be. So when I mount the pulpit to say anything, it will not be God will bless, just God will bless you. I will also tell you that there are things you can do as an individual. Use your mind, just not only your spirit. Your mind is there as for a reason.
You had mentioned a statement, and I like to quote: "Your mind is the ability that can open the door for you, but the same ability is not enough to keep you there."
Yeah. I mean,
And looking at what got America where it is, and the fact that it has become a centripetal force. Use the ability, your mind is the ability for you, but it's not the same that can keep you there.
I put it this way: what opens the door for you may not be enough to keep you in the room.
Let's talk more about that.
I remember, I'm a network engineer. My door or my passport into the networking industry, I became certified as a Novell network engineer back in '95. Today, Novell, nobody talks about Novell. '95, Novell owned almost 75 to 80% of the network market. Today, nobody talks about Novell. If all I clung to was Novell, I'll be unemployed by now. You getting me?
Right.
If you are a doctor and you don't upgrade your skills, a time will come, the sort of ailments people will have, they won't come to you for anything. So all of a sudden, being a doctor may open the door, but remaining that doctor will not be enough.
So you kind of have to be playing the competitive advantage.
That's what life is about. You getting me? So again, back to, in order not to stray too much, all of it, I'm looking at what are these forces all again? How do they play their game? How do I want to remain just a pawn on the chessboard they are playing the game on? No, now I want to transition from just a piece
to becoming
a player.
Part of what's happening.
You understand? I want to be a shaper. So I just don't want to be somebody, those forces, and I want to understand, as I said, understand those forces.
Well, let's look at how do we get to understand really what's happening about whatever it is that is shaping where we're going in life.
I mean, one for me is the Bible.
Okay.
I have information in the Bible to start me off.
Sure.
The other thing also is to become very observant. Look at what is happening. Pay particular attention to things. Think about things. Don't just be a passive participant. Don't let the water just carry you. Can I shape the flow of the water? Can I shape the direction of the water? What do I need to understand? How is the world turning out to be? Where is it going? There were people that ruled the world some 20, 30 years ago that nobody talks about. What is happening? What has all of a sudden a nobody? We didn't know. Mark Zuckerberg is literally how many people? Over 4 billion people are on Facebook.
Absolutely.
He literally, one person.
One person.
Less than 20 years ago.
And now Facebook owns Instagram.
Less than 20 years ago. Nobody. We didn't know Mark Zuckerberg. But he's a big player in what happens in the world now.
Without a PhD.
Thank you.
Or a master's.
So again,
I'm realizing it's not even your degree that takes you somewhere.
That's why I said, what opens the door for you may not be enough to keep you in the room. So I must understand how the world is really turning out to be. Where is it going? What direction is it taking? I must make a conscious effort to understand. So my choices and my decisions will be better informed.
Well, you know, I'm actually really, my mind is all over the place. As you keep talking, my mind, you know, I'm an international relation person. So as you talk, my mind travels all around. I'm looking at politics, I'm looking at government, I'm looking at what is happening in the European Union, the arguments going on. All of a sudden, Britain is saying all kinds of things. And now I'm beginning to question, what is the force behind it? What is shaping all of these things? And when all these things are happening, where is it going?
Yep.
How is that impacting me?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And you had mentioned they are the world players,
but
and they are making decisions that is affecting everybody.
Maybe 100 years ago, America was there, Britain was there, but nobody knew China.
Of course.
You understand? China may well become the superpower, may overtake America. What sort of world is that going to be?
So,
America has been all about democracy.
Let's talk about the predictions there when you get down with what you say.
I mean, for example, the American model has been about,
The same.
call it the individual,
Right.
democracy,
Right.
and what have you. China is not democratic. Democracy is not the style of China. So when China does overtake America and they are calling the shots,
Eventually.
how is that sort of world going to turn out to be?
Because right now, history tells us that America has been able to influence almost half of the world with a democratic style of governance.
But
and if China
it's
is
just
going,
because America is number one.
so now if we are doing the predictions and we are realizing that, well, China not being a democratic country is heading towards becoming a number one superpower, what is the world going to say about democracy?
How is the world going to operate?
And respond.
These are valid questions. You understand? And maybe we may live to see that day when China becomes the dominant power. When it does, how would the world look like? If all we will go with and by will be our understanding of the world as shaped by America, we will find ourselves completely unequipped.
So China is a
operate.
socialist country, is that correct?
I don't want to use labels,
Right.
but I know their style is different from America.
Absolutely.
So now all of a sudden we know that the American model is not the only model out there to take you to the top.
Right. Absolutely.
You understand?
Yeah.
So again, I want to understand that other model. China is going to be, and all the projections are there. When it does happen,
course.
I may have to re-educate myself
Right. To stay.
to stay
current.
relevant.
Right.
Because all of a sudden I'll be dealing with a philosophy, I'll be dealing with an economic model, I'll be dealing with all kinds of things. It's like a domino effect. You getting me? I'll be dealing with such forces in a world that may look different.
I want to say something. You know, so we are here educating as well, right? We talk about what's happening, but we also like to educate a little bit. We got candidates that are playing, right? We got candidates out there. All of a sudden, it's just women all involved. Everybody is anxious to take on this position. What are some of the things that you want to talk about? Forces that shape the destinies.
Well.
And then looking at, of course, you know, and then looking at what is happening, China catching up with the West or taking over with the West. We have the statistics, we have the research. You know, this is not something new. It's going on. What can we talk about with these new politicians that are coming into play? And
I mean, for heaven's sake, as I said, the world is changing. So they cannot keep prescribing the same medicine. You understand?
Yeah.
The diseases are turning out to be more sophisticated than the drugs we have. So it means we must now reevaluate things. I mean to speak metaphorically. So if you are a politician,
next week they are about to start talking. What is the word for that? they're going to be contesting and talking about what
The primaries
the
or whatever.
primaries. They're going to start talking about what they're going to be bringing to the table.
As I said again,
They can't
you
prescribe the
can't-
same medicine.
You can't actually use the 20th century model.
Well, take a look in the camera and start speaking to some of these candidates.
I mean, you can't use the 20th century model
Absolutely.
in the 21st century and think it will work optimally.
Right.
You get me? You may be dealing with the same same physical human beings, but they are changing every day. So you yourself, the politician, whoever you are, seeking to be the thought leader, seeking to be the policy maker,
Absolutely.
try to understand the world we live in and the world we are going to live in. America may have 20, 30 years to remain the number one.
Right.
But China is unrelenting. When that time comes, would your knowledge, your skill set be enough to handle? What sort of diplomacy is going to be used to deal with China? What are the models? You getting me?
Right.
What are the models? Maybe a 20th century solution will be what we are using in the form of tariffs. But are they really working? Are you getting me?
Right.
All of a sudden, we have to revisit a lot of the models in order to stay relevant in the coming years.
Right.
Because the geopolitical world is changing. And whether we like it or not, it's going to change. Again, back to the original. Which forces are responsible for this?
And what
And I
criteria
want to-
are they using?
I want to understand to remain relevant.
Understanding all of these forces, you had mentioned certain things. The Bible. Using your
Timeless.
right. And then using your senses, your eyes, particularly observation. Observation in terms of what is happening around you and how to even understand what you're seeing. What are the forces?
No, again, I said that they are invisible.
Invisible forces.
they are invisible. But that's what is fascinating about the whole thing. I want to unmask them. I want to see their footprints and their handwriting, and using that to really get to know those forces. You getting me? The way they are still they have bags of tricks they can use. I want to understand. Maybe there's, as I said, there may not be a Nebuchadnezzar in the 21st century going to a particular country, ringing it, and taking its people hostage to bring them to wherever it is. But look at it carefully. All Nebuchadnezzar was, one of his interests was not necessarily to empty Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar was interested in people with ability to manage his kingdom.
Ability.
So he conquered. Yet he took some of the children who were slaves and gave them the best of Babylon. Because the Bible said they will be trained in the learning and the literature of the Chaldeans. Who were the Chaldeans? These were conquered people, but they gave them chance. So they could. So all of a sudden, again, Nebuchadnezzar becomes a case study for me. What was his goal? What did he want to achieve? And so, who is the Nebuchadnezzar of the 21st century? Maybe 10 years from now, who is that Nebuchadnezzar who is going to wield so much power? And what are the things he's going to do? You see, the same thing. The forces remain the same, but the operations
Variables.
and their style may change.
Right.
but the goal will remain the same.
Who
I
is
want
the
to
most,
understand.
so I want to ask you today, who is the most powerful person in the world? And who is this person? And what are the criteria that he's using
I don't know.
to
I
run
mean,
things around the world?
People have money.
Would that
Money can influence a lot of things.
So is the
money
dollar?
can give
would
you power.
Would you say is the dollar, is the US dollar, or
We
is the
don't
pound
know.
sterling?
Honestly, we don't know.
We don't know.
Because again, money is not the only thing that really gets life going. There are other things. You getting me?
Right.
So again, we must understand these forces. Money is one of those forces.
Okay.
What are those? The
Other
other
forces.
forces. Is it brain power?
So I am so worried right now because we only got 3 minutes left, and now it's getting so interesting.
Okay.
So here's the last point, and I want to be very careful that I capture that one. Money is one of the forces that controls the world. What are the other forces? So would I say that's going to be our part 2 then?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. So our next part 2, money is the driving force.
Yeah.
It's one of the
It's a driving force.
a driving force.
Yes.
And then we're going to look at the rest
Other
of the
driving
forces.
Yes.
In less than it's now 2:49. Time is moving. Can you tell your audience something? I don't know what you want to tell them. We've been looking at forces. So we've been looking at forces that drives destiny. And so as we are closing here, I want you to take a minute or so and just tell our audience something, tell the candidate something, tell the world something, tell somebody something.
Well, I mean, again, and to quote an ancient philosopher, Heraclitus, he said, the world is in a state of flux, and you can't enter the same river twice. The life is not static. There may seem to be some sort of inertia in life, but life is very dynamic, moving. And our experiences are changing on the fly. How do we remain relevant? The world will become an unrecognized or unrecognizable place. How do I still function and remain relevant in that sort of world? Use your mind. The Bible has the answers. Christ is the answer.
Absolutely, yes.
Amen.
Amen. I agree to that. So we've been watching community empowerment. You've been watching the Roberto Randolph Show. I need to correct that. You have been watching the Roberto Randolph Show. And we've been looking at forces that drives destiny. And I can tell you the vast knowledge that I have gained. We look at the geopolitical world. We look at the Brexit. We look at the United States and what is happening in our, in our governance. We've looked at international relations. But it all drives down to history. And we realize that the center of all of these things is that there are some specific driving forces, which we are going to be unmaxing these forces, so that we'll be unmaxing them so that we know the forces that are driving all of these things, and then we can have a better understanding of what is happening around the world. With that said, it's been amazing. You've been journeying with us for some time now. Keep journeying, and we'll be bringing you relevant information about what is going on around the world, what is happening within our walls, and what is happening right next door. The Roberto Randolph Show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you then. Bye.